My father was in Warsaw, and Warsaw was almost surrounded by the Germans. And my mother decided to go to Warsaw to find him. And by luck, she found him, and they managed to come to Bialystok in one of the last trains. As soon as my father came, well, of course, we were bombed already then. Every day German dive bombers would bomb Bialystok, and I helped dig ditches and being immersed in what is war. And my father decided we have to leave. We cannot stay here because it's so close. The Germans will occupy it any day now. So here comes loyalty into the picture. My father found my late grandfather's coachman, and the coachman agreed, and like September 3rd, he showed up with a wagon, like the pioneers, I tell the students, covered, filled with straw, pulled by a horse. So my mother, my sister, my father and I, we climbed into it, and we decided to move east. Now, we don't have a map here, but toward Vilna. Bialystok and Vilna may be at the most 200 miles apart, but in between there are all these forests and not that many roads. So we wandered for almost 2 weeks in the forests of Poland, undergoing intermittent bombings, because the Germans would come and machine gun and dive bomb the refugees. There were thousands of refugees, and every time the dive bombers came, we would jump out of the cart and run into the wheat fields and lie down. The wheat was ready to be harvested, was tall, but there was nobody to harvest it because the farmers were in the war. They were soldiers. So you asked me the question whether I was afraid or I felt about the war. That's also a question that was asked a number of times when I give talk to schools. And my answer, I thought about it, is when you are 9 or 10, you can only be afraid of something that is momentary threatening you. You don't have like an adult, you don't have the concept or the feeling of a cosmic fear. So yes, when the planes came down, I was afraid and jumping into the field. But as soon as the planes left, this fear left. And in fact, then I would be preoccupied, what am we are going to eat? Because in those 2 weeks, I remember several days we only ate apples. We stopped at a farm that had apples because it was harvest time. And some other days, we stopped at a chicken farm, and my father bought eggs, and we ate raw eggs. Only once did we stop in one small town, Slonim. Many Jews came from Slonim. My mother had some distant cousins there, and of course, being good Jews, they took us in, we bathed, and we had a good meal, but that was only once. We continued east, and we came to a town, it's in the book Molodechno, which was a railroad junction. Now it's in Belarus. And the coachman left us on the train platform, and he said, I have to go home. And as we stood there, we heard this rumble that became louder and louder And pretty soon we saw these tanks. First, we thought that they were German, but they had the Red Star. They were Russian. And then the troops came, and this young officer came on the platform, and he gave my sister was very pretty. She was 4 or 5, with blonde hair. He gave her a chocolate bar. And then he started talking to my father. And he said, "Are you Jewish?" And my father said, "Yes." He said, "I'm Jewish too." He was like a lieutenant. He said, "Can I help you?" My father said, "Well, we want to go to Vilna." He said, "Okay, I'll put you on this military train." So he put us on the military train. We came to Vilna.